I'm going to check out as well. It's definitely been fun. I know this is my first time here, and I'm going to put it on my calendar now that I figured out how to use this thing. So we'll see you all next week or next week.
Excellent, Doc. Good to have you here.
Bye.
Yeah.
See you later, Doc.
Bye, Doc.
So Nicole, how has everything been going with getting students unsigned up for the classes that you still had that ended up getting canceled?
Mostly it's been going well. We've gotten a lot of understanding and empathy and condolences, and one person who broke into 4-letter words and called us names. But that was the exception and not the rule. So
I don't know why Jason had to do that to you.
Well, you cancel on me, it's going to be a problem. It's good that it was only one. I'm sure they called me many things. People were swearing at me when they found out that Illinois didn't care if you come up to Wisconsin and take my class. And they're like, why not? I'm like, I don't live in Illinois. I don't know why. Apparently we're not good enough. But out of that, I got to ask, so in all seriousness, so if you guys aren't offering classes, what option does an Illinois resident have in Harper College's district to be able to take a class and potentially fulfill their dream of having a license?
Is Ride Chicago operating?
there are third-party
Yeah.
training
But in that third party,
opportunities.
am I right in understanding that Harper is the only way to directly pass, going to the Secretary of State's office and driving around in the parking lot?
Yes, we're the only waiver program in Northern Illinois.
What happens with minors? Are minors able to take a class somewhere else and go to the DMV then?
No.
So
They must take our class and they must pass the DMV. They have to do both, 16 and 17-year-olds. And if we don't have them offered, then they're going to have to wait until next year. Yeah, that's the way it is.
Obviously, that's not your fault, but that seems like a huge failure on policy.
Yeah.
And did I understand that you already know you're not going to have classes during spring semester?
We will have e-course.
What's that?
We're planning on doing e-course BRCs. So,
But you won't have any full BRC classes for students during Harper's spring semester.
Wait, what was the question, Rita?
Are you going to have BRCs during the spring semester next year, as far as you know right now?
As far as we know, yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Some
starting
reason
the
I
third
thought
week
that,
in March.
Okay. Some reason I thought that you weren't going to have classes until possibly summer semester.
No.
We're still on COVID. The whole college is still on COVID restrictions until at least the end of spring semester.
You can have classes, just everyone has to wear masks and do e-course.
Reduced class sizes, and we have to use the e-course and yada, yada,
I'm trying
yada.
to see if we can get our 3-wheel to use the e-course too and just, fill in the gaps. I think that'll save some people some time. So.
Well, Sarah, you don't have anything going on. Maybe you should come up and take one of Jason's 3-wheel classes to see how it goes with using the e-course.
Jason, do you remember when I sent you a student from Illinois 3 years ago?
Yeah, thanks a lot. I'd like to do a favor by sending you Scooter Girl.
No, thanks for that. That's really touching. So I get this phone call from Jason, new friend at the time, and it just opens up, Robin? And I'll bleep it out, but he says, are you effing with me right now? Like, what's going on? Are you effing with me right now? I got this dude up here with these weird orthopedic shoes. He's about 4 feet tall, and he's real twitchy. It's like, yeah, I sent him to you. Sorry.
That was the first guy I almost saw go over the freaking windshield on a Can-Am RT as he stood up for the obstacle and stood onto the brake pedal. And I went, what in the hell?
I mean, I didn't like, he barely, never mind.
That dude is a doctor.
Yeah, he's a dentist.
Actual MD.
Yeah.
He works on children from what I can tell. Like, what the hell?
Yeah, very, very interesting character.
So
He's
they're-
the first
they're-
person I've ever seen Don Beeren say he stopped, the guy passed, and Don watches him and he goes, "What a spaz!" Like I've never heard him speak in that timbre. I've never heard him do anything like that in my life. And he was just tweaked by that guy.
Sarah, if you want to see something different, I got one seat next weekend, and I'll exit out for you if you want to come in Sturtevant. So it's
Totally do it.
It's as close.
Where
to
is this at? Is this in Madison?
No,
No,
Sturtevant.
Sturtevant's halfway.
Half.
Oh,
It's
halfway
close.
up north.
Yeah, it's not bad.
20 miles over the border. Come on.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
On the,
Like
on the
Kenosha,
Chicago-
Racine
on the
area.
Chicago side.
It's close to Kenosha, Sarah. Close to
Oh,
Gurney.
okay. Yeah,
Have
that's
you ridden
like
the
2
Spider?
hours or something.
Kenosha riots. What they got? There's an excellent bakery down the street though.
That's where I got my dog.
The riot. Yeah, that.
Yeah, it's riot season, you know? Yeah, let me take a look at my schedule for sure. So it's Saturday and Sunday?
Yes.
Okay, I'll take a look.
You bringing the portable system? No. No, it's shaking. No.
Sarah, have you ever ridden the Spider?
I'm a 3-wheel trainer.
Oh, okay. Well,
Wait a minute.
I asked
that
'cause I
doesn't
don't know.
clarify anything.
so
I
That's-
sold
that's
them
an
for
answer.
I sold them at iMotorsports for about a year, and I'd ride them every single day, all different types. Those in the slingshots, a lot of fun. So yeah.
Okay.
What curriculum, Jason, are you guys using?
The BRCU 3-wheel.
Oh, okay.
BRCU.
Okay. Yeah, because I was going to say here in Massachusetts, we do the evergreen step.
I would really like to see that as a sidecar owner.
All right. You know, I love sidecar owners. I don't get them often enough because when I have a sidecar owner, we get to run the exercises on 2 wheels. There's 2 exercises that one's just getting it on 2 wheels and doing some circles, and the other one's actually steering reversion. So that's some fun stuff.
Coach Maggie Dean, will you make me a drink? I don't care what you make. Just make it strong.
Teach him how to mute stuff. Oh my goodness.
I just muted him myself. The power of being a host. Ha 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 ha. So, Josh, with 3-wheel in Wisconsin, we use the 2-wheel e-course. We have our 3-wheel students take the 2-wheel e-course, and then during classroom, the only level 1 we do is we skim through the book fairly quickly and talk about things that are different for 3-wheel than what they saw in the 2-wheel e-course.
Interesting. Evergreen came out with a 1-day step program that it's called blended. They're calling it blended. And I think we're the only ones that are certified in it now. They actually came out from Washington State. Dave Wendell came out, and we were the kind of the pilot for it. But they also came out with an e-course as well for the 3-wheel step program.
Josh, do you work with Rick?
Rick Siegel?
Yes, the guy with the dreads.
Yes, absolutely.
He's a
Me too.
interesting individual.
He sure is. And I was talking with him actually a couple days ago because I'm one of the kind of I don't like Rikers, or I'm concerned about Rikers.
Oh, well.
I had an incident 2 years ago, and I mean we practice roll off and break and watch wrist position. We watch everything, and I had an experienced gold wing rider. This woman was riding like 30 years. She grew up on a motorcycle. She was a tractor trailer driver as well. Her and her husband, I mean, were really into riding. And we got all the way to day 2, almost the very last exercise. And she went for the imaginary front brake lever that didn't exist.
Yep.
40 miles an hour, off the range, down an embankment.
But
And
that wouldn't have changed on a Spider. It's still
well,
this.
let's put it this way. I've never had the incidences or the issues I've been having with Rikers that the Spiders aren't as touchy, in my opinion. The Riker goes like 0 to 60 and nothing.
So I nerded out this weekend, and I have so for my race bike, I went out and bought an AIM Sport lap timer that is it's called a Solo DL that you plug into the data link on your bike. And so so are we ready for war stories now? Because we're all still here. So I've had the Can-Am training key since about June, and a couple schools, and I assume Rick was one of the schools that got it, but maybe I'm wrong.
Yeah, he was saying that they were still not ready to release it yet.
So what's going on is Can-Am sent out this training key, and if you know anything about their side-by-side stuff and Sea-Doos and Ski-Doos, and I didn't, because since 2018 at IRETS, 2018 might have been in Vegas. Anyways, the first one that I went to in Columbus, when I listened to Can-Am school, I got up, I talked to Chris and Steph, and I said, okay, so these things have valet keys, right? And they looked at me like I was an idiot. Like, what's a valet key? I'm like, I need a key that reduces the power to idiot level so we can't crash this thing. And they're like, well, I don't know. So Riker came out, and in fact, I met and you probably met Sean Erb, that was the, we'll call it training school liaison. And immediately from the time he's like, hey, we might have a secret. I'm like, you're telling me that the valet key works and it's a thing. He goes, well, give it a little while. So it came out, Riker came out, and finally they told me, hey, Jason, we got this. I'm like, cool, mail me one. I'll try it. We'll see what happens. Ironically, it showed up. I knew it was coming on Thursday. It was supposed to show up at my dealer on Monday. On Sunday morning at 10:30 a.m., I had a lady put a Riker underneath a chain link fence. Day 2, exercise 10, pass number 3. She was in run group number 2 on an 8-person class where we shared.
For those who don't speak three-wheel, that's swerve exercise.
Third pass through this exercise, went through a fence. So this person, and I wrote an entire how to, I've been trying to work on everything from vernacular to how many laps we need to do it, because my understanding is some states are so ironed down that you will do exactly what the cards say and nothing else. So how many times do we have to do it? Anyways, this weekend, I can tell you that the Can-Am learning mode, and the key came out and was told, the directions literally said, put it in something that's called rental. I don't know what the hell rental's for, maybe golf courses. Rental will go 12 miles an hour.
That's grocery store speeds.
And schools saw this because they read the directions. They got the bike and went, this is horse shit. We're not training like this. Well, I looked at rental and went, wait a minute, there's another choice here. Let's try the tool. And I can do that because I'm at the dealership, into their learning mode, which they have learning mode for side-by-sides and four-wheelers and everything. It's to put your kid on this and hopefully they don't kill anything. Learning mode will go in estimated, or I should say indicated, 65 miles an hour. By way of my GPS lap timer, it'll be 62 miles an hour. A Can-Am 900 in learning mode takes 25 seconds to get to 62 miles an hour. And good. It is. It's totally reduced. And I played with it. I'm like, it'd be cool if it didn't go 60. But
right.
Saturday was the first time I could tell you it took 25 seconds to get there. And of those of us that have had incidents and seen things happen, the acceleration from 0 to 30 is so brutal, most people can't let go because they're afraid of falling off, so they're just hanging on, which means your wrist is back, and here we go. Which, again, I'm speculating, but there is no way in hell that the coaches at any school where something bad happened said, what I want you to do is pin it and drive into that thing. That didn't happen.
Right.
So on a stock 900, because I did this in my neighborhood, luckily I live in the country and you can do these things, a 600 Riker, stock 600 Riker will go 0 to 60 in about 10.8 seconds. A stock 900 Riker will make it about 8.6. And that's with me, we'll call it pedaling it. And if you'd like to see pictures of the data logger stuff that I have, I shared them with Can-Am and said, here's where I think we are. Here's where I think we need to be. And if you make the learning mode, which is the third section, and by the way, they put out this key. The other thing they didn't want anybody to really know is the learning key is not special. It's just another Can-Am key that you go in and program and go, this one's learning mode. The truth is they give me orange keys so you can tell the difference visually and the coach knows what's going on. When you put the key into the bike and turn it on, and Rita's used this, it says learning mode across the dash. it'll say rental mode if you use that, but that sucks. However, rental mode I think would be fantastic for the never tried this, kind of scared we're going to run an IME kind of device or kind of class. Fantastic. Just roll the bike around and we'll talk about steering. But I haven't used it. So we've used rental mode, or I'm sorry, we've used learning mode at the school where you put a bike through the fence. And I didn't have enough testicular fortitude to give you a real number, but I can tell you from one end of the range to the other, and this is a compact, so 60 by 170 with about 40 feet of runoff on both ends. I could get to the fence at about 35 miles an hour. And that's all I had before I could get to the brakes. So I just didn't have it in me to touch the fence that day. But 35 miles an hour everywhere in the MSF standards. As I tested one student, I had a one student class this weekend. That's a way to pay the bills. Had a one student class. She ran the learning key almost the entire time. We let her use the stock key on a 900. And then went back to learning key for all the other subsequent exercises and the eval because I wanted to see what happened. She had great throttle control from the get-go, meaning she did not whack anything open at any time. It takes about 30% throttle opening. That's my estimate in order to get to an appropriate speed inside of that 25-foot acceleration range. Her times for everything, put it into the math way of it would be about 15 to 17 miles an hour. And she did not accelerate through all of our timing areas or through the measuring. She did exactly what I said. You got to accelerate to these cones, mental cruise control, and then do what you got to do, whether it be braking or swerving. And then in the acceleration thing, she was—
It sounds to me like the key is actually setting you up
for success. And some people are going to go, this is too easy, anybody can do it. And I guess that's kind of true.
downgrading, like sort of a generic Nighthawk 250.
Still coaching that throttle or the wrist position and throttle, control. It's a win for the schools because there's schools that have totally panicked with $15,000, $30,000 bills that they're buying brand new Spyders and Rikers. And for the people that say it's not a Spider problem, it can't be a Spider problem. My F3 goes 53 miles an hour in first gear. And
I don't disagree with that at all. I mean, the F3s are fast, and we have had issues with Spiders. It's just, it seems like it's accelerated. More people have been having issues with Rikers that I've talked to anyway, or in our
But then are you talking about the 900 or the 600?
Well, that's the problem. Yeah, is we have 900s. We have 600 and 900, and we don't have Spiders anymore. They basically, our sites, we only have Rikers and mostly 900s. And in my opinion, like a BRC on a two-wheel motorcycle, we can't have over a certain CC. But you got these animals that, hey, here's a great training rig. And
that's what Jason's talking about. So
rig.
his key is downgrading even the 600 and the 900 to a Nighthawk 250.
So we do not have a 600 with a learning key, so I can't give you any numbers on that. But I can tell you a stock 600 is way easier to get out of the hole without smoking the tire. Pulls 0.57 Gs repeatedly from 0 to 30 miles an hour. The 900, I could pull 0.57 Gs with, but that's after I pedaled it because I was already spinning the tire, and it does it about 3 seconds later because I was trying to get the back tire to hook up. So honestly, the 900s are harder to get to accelerate because for those people that whack it open, the tire's spinning. The thing that I've seen and where I'm trying to, write the how-to and what do we do in vernacular for this is that on a Can-Am product, currently, if you use full throttle and full brakes at the same time, the throttle wins every time and you lose control of that motorcycle because you can't steer it with the front end pushing. And that's how I watched a lady go into the fence, which, I'm really happy she didn't hit me, but I was totally scared that it happened. Yeah. But I saw her. I mean, she had her foot on the brake. She just didn't let go of the throttle.
Sounds like they need an electric interrupt, something.
So in part of that data logger thing, I found out that Can-Am actually maps the brake pressure switch. So I can tell when the brakes are on or not. I mean, I'm riding, of course I know it, but I see a 0 or a 1 on the screen. And what I asked for and what used to happen on the RTs was that if you had the throttle applied and you were riding the brake for X amount of seconds, it would derate. And I asked him, like, why can't we do this with the Riker if the throttle's on, and let's just say your throttle's over 15%, which means you're probably going to accelerate, and your brake switch is on for more than 1 second, make the bike fall on its face. And of course I got, well, are you teaching them how to ride? I'm like, well, from a basic class, I want those two actions to be separate. That's not necessarily a bad thing. And it only has to happen in programming with the learning key. So right now, the only thing I can tell you they're working on with the learning key is that they're trying to cap the speed at 25 miles an hour so we can still do the show and tell, eval 8 for those BRC2 coaches. I'm sorry, exercise 8. Or, an exercise 6 for 3-wheel coaches, and still be able to hit that mark. I'm just asking them to make it soft so it's not super abrupt like the Harley Streets, which I think is like hitting a brick wall when you're accelerating. But that's my opinion.
No, you're my hero. That's great, Jason.
That's the guy.
That's exactly, when this incident happened to me a couple of years ago, and I mean, she punctured along like it wasn't just a little thing. I mean, it was the only time I've ever called an ambulance in, years of coaching and in 6-7 years of being a step instructor. And it really, I had PTSD and everything over it. And I was like, I wish the second it was happening that I had like a kill button that could just shut all the rigs off, because they're 3-wheel rigs. They're not going to fall over if they just start coasting. But I wanted something to be like, boom, coast, I
was told they tried that and couldn't make it reliable enough to put it out. But every Chinese 4-wheeler has that as an option for children right now.
For children, yes.
Yeah. But how do you do that when you've got 6 bikes out there or whatever?
You shut everybody down.
Okay. So you're just going to make it
The brakes still work.
Like bumper cars,
Yeah, just like bumper cars. Okay, time's up.
Everybody out of the pool.
Another thing that we'll stress is thumb brake. Thumb brake. It does anything, thumb. You'll be screaming thumb. And you do that, you'll slow down a whole lot more, if anything. That's the big thing.
Yeah.
If it does anything, you touch that, you thumb it.
I mean, I am an engineer, and obviously I'm not an engineer for BRP, but I think they fell short at not putting a handbrake, because sometimes people go to 3-wheelers. Like I had a student that was like paraplegic. He didn't have use of his legs. He had a specially modified one that had a handbrake. And I'm like, I love that rig. I wish that's how they did it, because that brake pedal's pretty small and you lose your foot placement. And if you're panicking, it's not that good of a situation,
Nah, yeah, and then all your leverage falls into the brake pedal. Then you're standing on the pedal. Then you got more leverage on the pedal, and then you're kissing the dash. Yeah, I mean, it would be a good option. No,
it would be. It's possible. I don't understand why the engineers didn't want anything to do with that. The Riker was the ultimate optional, handy, accessible vehicle. It's totally throttle by wire. There is no cable involved at all. One of the other things I found out was that when you hook it up, the throttle position, that is the butterflies in the throttle body, move completely independently of your hand throttle. So on the 600, actually the throttle plates open up farther than on the 900 when you go to wide open throttle from a dead stop. And then they immediately shut to more than 50%, which I assume is a noise thing, but makes it softer, more controllable, and easier. And as we played as coaches, all my coaches are like, the 600 just gets out of the corner faster every time. And of course, yes, we're playing with them, and I did get the chance to ride them on a racetrack, and it's totally like that, because of how that particular thing was. And I got to the point, I mean, we're going to use, I think, when I say we, the collective we, you guys out there in Mass too, going to get the learning key and say, here, just use it. And I told them, like, use it as is. The coaches are better like this. This will not eliminate, but certainly help almost all the situations we've had. It will not eliminate bumper cars. Customers that fail in path of travel and 2 bikes coming together is going to happen. I had one customer that literally bashed into the other one getting in line for eval 2. And I'm like, what the hell?
So I guess we also teach in Connecticut, some of us anyway, for Rick. He runs some stuff in Connecticut too. And one of our coaches last weekend had somebody bash into the back of somebody else, I guess waiting in line for something. So.
I've asked for 2 bike links forever. And students just like, they want to be the line leader to get the eval done or whatever. They put their feet on the ground. The other, bike posture number one, put your feet on the pegs. Here's why. With the bikes running, your feet are on the pegs, and they failed to do that, and I had somebody goose the throttle twice.
Hey, you know what's funny? The guy I was just talking about, he just signed in. Hermes, my man. He's the one that had somebody run into the back of somebody else.
Clearly, there's a lot of eavesdropping
Hey,
going
what's
on.
up, guys?
I mentioned Jason Airheim, and he was like,
Boom,
"Hey,
showed
how
up.
are you doing?"
That's right.
Yeah, this guy doesn't know anything, but I'm trying, man. And I want Can-Am to work just because it's something to do. I'm having fun with it, but the Can-Am got the write-up. Like, Jason, what's your takeaway from this? People are stupid, and you're asking them to ride Can-Ams. This is gonna happen.
Well, yeah, I completely agree with you guys. That in like Josh said, like I had it happen twice in one of my last classes where people were sitting in line, hit the throttle, and hit the person in front of them. In this case, the same person got hit twice by two different people because they just didn't have enough throttle control or sense of what was happening with the machine when they needed to do it.
Can I do a quick short-term topic change?
Uh-oh.
I got a question from students from Jason's outfit for our podcast. So somebody sent us questions and we fielded them. They were like trying to figure out how to find people to ride with. And I realized that, for Illinois, Sarah and Nicole, they help run the Illinois Street Smart Riders Facebook group. We should probably do a thing for writing a solution for the Wisconsin area for graduates. I got to bring this up with Donald Green. This is another outlet, social media. If you're going to promote more classes, then give them a chance.
RobinDeanTours.com. That's what's going to happen. There's not going to be any riding solution street rides.
No. It's not gonna be none of that to begin. I'm talking about like just a Facebook group where students can relate to each other and you can advertise more classes.
Oh, that sounds lovely. Why don't we give them a website to commiserate about how bad the coaching staff is, and I'll stay right out of it.
See, and that's what's happening right now with our three-wheel classes is with the Can-Am incentive and stuff. People are doing this. They don't even want to become a rider. They're just like, hey, you know what? I was bored this weekend. This looked like something fun to do. And they don't think about the seriousness of it. They're almost thinking like, oh, I heard these things are real computerized. They're real safe. And then it's just trying to change the mindset of, hey, we got to be, really careful here and learn throttle control. And they're just like, hey, I'm just doing this because it's something to do for the day.
So I have a question for you guys. You're the only two people I've ever talked to that work at a school that have done, I'm going to guess, probably as many or possibly more classes than I have. How many people have you counseled out of a three-wheel class?
I myself this year, one self-counsel and one counseled out. But I know from other coaches that have taught this year, we've probably, Josh, correct me, maybe 10 people have been counseled out of three-wheel classes this year, which is something
I
in my
agree.
time completely unusual. Last year, I never counseled anyone out in all the classes that I taught. Yeah. What was that, Josh?
Yeah, I'd agree on that. I had a couple that really weren't that good with the throttle control, and I figured that they were going to be a danger to themselves.
How did those students respond to that feedback?
Well, in my case, a lot of them were self-aware. A lot of them realized it wasn't for them because they had moments of being out of control and realized very quickly that it can go wrong real fast. So overall, most counseling that I've done in my time overall is always most students are self-aware that they're just not ready. Yeah. Very few times I've had any issues. But on the three-wheel, never an issue. They pretty much realized it's not for them.
I've had 4 people that I counseled out this year. 3 of them went out unwillingly. 1 of them nearly hit me. Full throttle, brakes locked up. I reached over and slapped the engine cutoff switch over the handlebars. And she's like, no, I'll change. I'm like, well, if you're going to change, that means you did this on purpose, and there is no way in hell you're riding my bike again.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
The other woman that totally went unwillingly told me that I was running an intermediate to advanced class, and she was a beginner, and she was going to make mistakes. And I said, yes, but you're 40 feet outside the path of travel, totally out of control. I can't endanger the other students. And if you're this far out already, and we let 40 feet is kind of the Wisconsin standard for how much leeway, or I should say acceleration room, we give people. And that was like mind-blowing to her, that she's like, I'm a beginner, I'm going to make mistakes. I'm like, yeah, but 40 feet outside of the path of travel in the other direction is a brand new boat. And if you hit it, it's going to cost you a lot of money. You're going to be injured, and you're going to be pissed and asking why I let you continue. Not very happy. And the first lady that almost hit me, she's telling, no, I'm going to keep going. I pulled the key on that bike. She would have kept going. She wasn't about to hear, no, you can't. So my next question is, what's the demographic of people that you counsel out? Because I got to know.
Dude, that's that's messed up. Go on.
In some ways, that's a self-explanatory question, isn't it?
I want to know if they're the same people I'm counseling out.
I myself have counseled out all kinds of people. It doesn't matter age.
No,
race,
on three-wheel class.
On three-wheel. Oh, on three-wheel.
Yes.
I'm sorry.
No, not
Okay,
just
I'm
in
sorry.
general. I
In
mean,
general,
three-wheel
okay,
class.
all right. Well, on three-wheel, same thing. Same thing.
I think one I had that was almost like you were saying, Jason, that was kind of reluctant, or hey, I'm learning, like, I'm new at this, and I'm like, I care about your safety. I want everybody going home the same condition they got here, and this isn't safe, and she probably was reluctant. She was probably mid-20s girl that just kind of was like, hey, this was something fun to do for the weekend. I think it was her introduction.
Yeah, I like it. I prefer not hearing students say something like that. Like, you gotta want it, but how many times have you heard somebody say, I just need a little bit more time? And it's like, this is a stair-step, exponentially more difficult exercise by exercise class. Thank you for your money. I look forward to more of it next time. See you again.
And even, I mean, we try to set the tone from the very, very beginning that, okay, everybody, what is the overall goal of this class? What's the overall over everything else? And somebody will say safety, and I'm like, absolutely. And I want everybody, leaving here the same condition they got here, and I want everybody to be safe. So people learn at different rates. Is that correct? Or I'll ask, what happens if you get nervous? Oh, you start to tense up. And I'm like, okay, so for this, we have to be relaxed. And if you get too tense, you get into that survival mode. And it's definitely, we have other options. We have private lessons, but we're going to have you stop because we don't want anybody getting hurt. So we try to set that tone as early as we can to try to ease the counsel out,
I like that you use the word relaxed. So when I sat down and tried to rewrite, how do we get correct posture out of a three-wheel motorcyclist? I use the word relaxed as the goal, and here's how we're going to get there. And when when you hear me say, begin from a relaxed position, this is what we're going to do. And in watching Rita over the years, trying to calm students that have that test anxiety, I watched her and say, okay, take a deep breath. In your head, sing your favorite song. I might stop, on the song bit, but get the people to put all your hooves, as Mr. Dean says, up on the motorcycle where you think they go. And now I want you to take a really big deep breath. And when you let it out, I want you to concentrate on dropping your shoulders first. And that makes the arms go limp and gets to where Sarah was motioning with the wrist position almost 100% of the time. Almost. Correct from there. And I'm the first guy to say, may I touch your wrist? And they're gloved up and everything, so not a big deal. But get them to the place I want to be. And that first step of, all right, so you guys got to start from this relaxed position. And the next thing I'm going to ask is really difficult. I want you to roll that throttle to full throttle and hold it there. And you can make your very favorite motorcycle noise you want to. And we get everybody to roll in. I'm like, and you're going to have to drop your shoulder and get there because it's a long travel throttle and it's not going to be comfortable. and then we start our exercise from there, and coaching that wrist position like Sarah was motioning about from that start. And you know what? I did all these things on the class that the girl went through the fence on, and the Can-Am learning key was in the mail and in my hand on Monday. If it was 48 hours later, I would have had it on a learning key.
Absolutely.
So we're trying.
My big
I've been,
my big joke or my hand signal is I have the chicken dance. If I
Absolutely.
see somebody getting tense, I'm like, hey, if you see me doing the chicken dance, I'm just telling you, try to relax those arms a little bit.
Absolutely. And we do that driving by people at the racetrack at 100 miles an hour at Road America and do that. And
For the love of God.
I got that from track days. That's why that was.
You know what? Try doing that. Try doing that while Jason is writing circles around you to process all the levels at which you're awful, and just telling you afterwards, like, I've been going around you 3 times, and I want you to know you're bottlenecking this. Anyhow.
Well, I had Ken Condon as my personal mentor, so he'd be backwards watching me going through a turn, and I'm going as hard as I can. I'm scared to death that he's like, "Come on, try to get a little bit closer to me. Come on, you're not going to crash."
But I might. And then, yeah, lo and behold, 2 things I've been joking around with is, and this is also based on Nicole Ehret's thing that she did during a thing, is letting people know in terms of their breathing, most of their best actions are going to happen on exhale. So if they take a deep breath and are slowly exhaling, if they practice taking action during that exhale, it does always turn out a lot smoother. And there was something else I forgot. Whatever. There's
I always
alcohol
tell
involved.
students there's 2 things that make writing easier. The first is breathing, and the second is smiling. If you're
Yep.
breathing and
Yes.
smiling, it's a lot
Yeah.
easier.
Yeah, man, it's not hooves, by the way. It's like, do you use the palms of your hands to type an email? Do you get on the keyboard and just go? You have to be tight. You have to be under control. So sit on the seat vertically, and then take a deep breath, and on exhale, begin an action. We don't have hooves.
Smooth input, smooth feedback. That's
So you're
fun.
saying that the hoop thing is
Nailed
to
it.
get them to put their toes on the pegs?
Yes, no.
The keyboard analogy is to
The
get them to
keyboard
put their-
analogy is it's for the bars.
Okay, but I love that, like, to get them to put their toes on the pegs and not, like the duck foot thing.
Oh yeah.
That's a big deal, especially on 3-wheel stuff. In my opinion, and I know it doesn't say this on the cards necessarily, but get the balls of your feet on the pegs. You got to move your foot to go to the brake. I want it to be a totally separate, well thought out execution, and put your foot back when you're not using it. And of course, I do the same thing on 2 wheels, but nobody listens. They're all covered
Yeah,
by
man.
because they think they need it to be there. But
I
that's
was-
that's a coaching point.
I was so late to that all weekend, this past weekend. I missed it for 2 students until like day 2. And I was like, oh yeah, we also have feet, except for Lieutenant Dan. But we don't talk about that because that's insensitive.
Yeah, the challenge with Rikers, especially with foot placement, is they can get into a position where their heels get awful close to the ground.
I drag heels sometimes myself on the Rikers.
Well, you have skis attached down there. What the hell? Okay, so now we're looking at this. So we have the Rikers in the garage. Let's see. I got to turn on some lights.
Hey, go over to the Nova.
I have to walk past it.
Okay. Oh, there are the lights on it. Go by the turbo. Go by the turboed Busa.
I don't have one of those.
You're unwell.
Yeah, I know. Okay.
Hey, what city are you near?
What city?
Yeah, you got the shirt. Never mind. Sorry.
Madison, I guess.
Speaking of that, did anybody see there's an ad out there in a lot of the motorcycle magazines? Take the lag out of the throttle on your Riker. Buy this throttle commander to make the Riker more responsive.
I just said that. I'm sorry. I should
Oh,
not.
did
You
you?
know what? I have to.
I said,
admit,
what
on
the?
that, it's maybe not the response that I want necessarily in making it accelerate faster, but one of the things that I've seen on the Riker, yes, no gear on a motorcycle, Rita. Anyhow, this whole throttle lag, and I measured it with my tool. You got to get to 8% throttle before anything happens. So students are trying to figure out how to get to Sarah's wrist flat position while they're cruising, which means they start like this to
Every
get to
time.
here every time. So trying to kill that is a big deal.
Yeah, it's like free play.
It almost is. And especially when we're teaching
Yeah.
them to roll off and the Riker has that little bit, that switch, instead of the mode switch that you have to go up as part of your startup procedure, that takes it out. When they're braking, they come down, they're stomping on the brakes and doing this and like, well, okay, that's a way, but you could just relax and be back to a relaxed throttle position.
I sure thought about going back to the breathing thing. One of the principles that I was given in learning martial arts is that thought goes with intent. Intent goes with breath, and then breath goes with the desired output, whether it's having a smooth movement or achieving a particular quality in your movement.
Jackie, wait, Bruce Lee. Be like water, my friend. It can crash.
And it becomes the teapot.
It becomes the glass. Be like water, my friend. Sunglasses, snorts a line apparently, puts on a race suit and goes to get into a fight with Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. Who does that? Motorcycle students? I don't think so. But then again, no, it does. It adds up. 3 steps. Yeah. Mind your breathing. Take action on exhale. Faster version, I guess. I don't know. I gave up my ninja days, so. Somebody say something.
So
Who's running this circus?
not Rita. So I just am curious about, because you guys are kind of describing what I would consider some fairly serious design flaws with these things. Is that because they were basically a snowmobile that somebody put wheels on, or because they were designed by snowmobile designers, or what?
I'll field this one. So throttle by wire is magnetic. Now in music we have what's called bit depth. All right, so bit depth is the number of wavelengths that can happen in an amount of time. All right, so let's imagine that from the 0 point to the full throttle point, you get a certain number of little notches that represent the magnetic point and how much power is being distributed to the rear wheel. All right, I get the feeling, having ridden those things, if I'm thinking in terms of audio and bit depth, that there aren't a lot of notches, which means the trigger from one notch to the next is a little bit sudden and jolty.
Right. And that doesn't make any sense, because throttle by wire has existed on motorcycles since fairly long time ago.
Yamaha R6.
Right.
Yes.
So I don't understand why these are like, I don't understand why it seems like there are some like really stupid issues with a thing where a lot of the technology came from way older stuff.
Right. They might have used a lower, what I was saying, like bit depth. So there may be 16 throttle points.
I was gonna say it's interesting.
But so if I map it out, the throttle position sensor works like the one in your car, the one in the trucks that I teach kids how to work on, in that it's got 0 to 100% totally every time. The throttle position, that is your hand, or pedal position if it were your car, works totally independent from the opening within the engine. And that's the part that is the tunability that they're currently missing. One of the things that they can't have, that you can't tune out, is how the clutch engages in the CVT, because that's going to be a wear item. And technically, as these bikes get more worn, because there is no electronic compensation for that at this time on this kind of machine, it's going to have a bigger lag. But assumedly you ride your bike for 10,000 miles, you're just going to feel it out. So
yeah, because it doesn't have like a complex automatic transmission like a truck or a car. It's got a CVT, which is like that. It's a cone that's distributing a placement of a belt, sort of like a 10-speed bike, but only more analog. And when that engages, that's when you hear that sound, and it is a sharp, jagged beginning.
Well,
and is that a snowmobile transmission?
Essentially,
it's the same
yes.
as riding a scooter. That if you ride a automatic transmission scooter, you get that throttle lag, and it's the same they start to roll on and they keep rolling on until
Yep.
the bike starts moving. It's the same thing. By the time your bike starts moving, you're at the point where you're giving it a little too much throttle because the students aren't patient enough to roll on a little bit, whether it be a scooter or the Riker. They need to roll
Except
on
that
a
with a scooter student that we see is on a small displacement scooter that
Right.
isn't gonna do that to them
I was gonna say
in the
even
same
a
way.
even a TU 250 has that little lag in there or something that sometimes doesn't always feel so smooth. Those
Or a
those they
giant
use those
one.
all the time. Yeah.
Yeah, we use those, and some of them are terrible in that way.
But it's interesting. Like I ride a Gixxer 1000 sometimes. I mean, even on the track, so I know about throttle control. And a couple times I've got on a Riker and I end up spinning the back tire up, without trying. And it's like, wow, this thing's like really a different type of touchy that,
It's extremely pissed.
yes.
Yeah, but going back to the scooter thing, everybody, I grew up in Europe and everyone over there rides scooters, and I cannot tell you how many times I saw people get on a scooter and just wreck right away. It doesn't matter if it's a 50cc, 125, 400. It is an automatic. You cannot feel out the engine. Oh, I'm going to teach this person how to ride, and they're gone and they're down. Luckily, most every case I saw, person got back up, bruised ego, bike wrecked, but they walked away. But when I got on the Riker and started seeing this, that was some of the first things I started realizing that it was the same concept of people overconfidence thinking, oh, it's simple. And they're going to be able to do it well. And as we know, that's not the case. Right. So
I like
So I
it.
guess-
I don't have to worry about that clutch and all those gears and things. This is great.
Right.
Exactly. Yeah. They did just get on and go. And actually, going back to the whole throttling and teaching the flat wrist, what I've developed over the time is I tell the students to, when we start feeling the throttle position in a static fashion, to only work within what their wrist allows. Don't worry how much the throttle goes
Absolutely.
down and
Yep.
how much the throttle goes up. Worry about where your wrist and arm will feel comfortable, going back to what you guys and ladies were talking about, being relaxed. Be relaxed. That's how much your wrist goes. That's how much throttle you're going to use.
Yep.
Come back up in your flat. That's where your hand is going to stay. Majority of the times, most students catch on really quick as we do the static. But every so often, as we all know from what's been going on, some students just can't pick up on that real quick, and results in the injuries that in the incidents that we have. But most of the time, most students are like, oh, wait a minute, I don't have to worry about all the throttle. I'm like, no, we're in a parking lot. We
Yeah,
don't
that's-
have to go 30 miles an hour. They're like, oh, okay, that kind of makes sense. I'm like, yeah, worry about where your wrist and learn how that much works. The rest comes later. 50
hopefully-
miles, 60 miles an hour comes later. You don't have
Hopefully
to
I don't
worry
get
about that
myself
right
in
now.
trouble with like Sarah or Jason here, but that is the line I'll use is I'll have everybody practice, full roll on, full roll off, half roll on, half roll off, quarter turn, and then to deviate from the book. That's probably all you're going to need for the remainder of this class. That quarter turn will rarely ever get there. So don't ever be reaching for more than that.
I thought you were going to say something bad because I take it a step further and we go into eighth, and then I introduce that as parking lot throttle, and that's what you'll be using.
Yeah,
Parking
there's
lot
like
travel.
next to
I'm gonna,
nothing.
I'm gonna steal that. I like that. Parking lot travel. I like
Well, I have them do it with the bike running, not full throttle, but a quarter turn. I'll be like, yo,
Can't do
violin
it.
section, you guys,
It's not
you
gonna work with
two.
the Riker, Robin.
Yeah, you can't do that with a Riker. There's
with
no
the Riker.
neutral.
But we
That's-
can find the beep.
Guys, dare to dream. You can do anything if you set your mind to it.
Well, that is true, right?
I believe in all of you. All of you.
Yes.
Yeah, we got to get some jack stands and jack the back of them up. Okay, now we can play with the throttle.
me and Josh were just talking about this yesterday. How every so often you have a student doing the roll forward and applying the brake, and all of a sudden they put their hand up to go to push them back on the Riker, and their hand comes right back down, and you're just running in the opposite direction.
Yeah, so in
Because
the
you're worried.
Evergreen curriculum, I'm not real familiar with the MSF curriculum. I've looked at it a little bit, but
That's okay. Me neither.
yeah, that's okay, right? But in the Evergreen curriculum, the first exercise before they head out to the range, we have them feel out the friction zone. If it's a clutch bike or like the Riker, what they do is they roll on slightly, come forward nice and smooth. We give them a stop signal. They put their throttle hand up in the air so we know when they're not going anywhere, and we push them back to their stop position. and then we have them come forward again, and we do that multiple times till we can see that they're really smooth and can control their roll on before we allow them out to the range. And yeah, they'll put their hand up, and you start pushing the rig back, and their hand starts coming down. It's like, no, you got to keep your hand up. I'm in front of your rig, you know.
Probably not a bad choice, things to do. Obviously, you guys know about where to stand and what to do. Rita was nice enough to come to my house and put on a rider coach prep. So in my driveway, we rolled the Harley Davidson. So we had a Tri-Glide, we had a 900, a 600, and an F3. And I went through exercise 1 and went through it the way that I'm 100% convinced you need to do it. And that is, the machines that are standing in front of you. And what I got was, hey, wait a minute. None of this is in the cards. We have to know this? I'm like, yes. You have to know how the machine works, where to stand, where it's safe to be, and what the potential pitfalls are. Number 1 for you and number 2 for the student as they're doing it. It's a huge deal. So in a similar but different way, the MSF still has, just like in a BRC, a group rocking, command, or, that's what the goal is.
You're talking about the brake.
I've turned it into creeping the motorcycle. Give me 3 to 5 feet and go to the brakes, and then do it again and again and again and again and again until we get out to that first cone for the exercise 2, which is much like exercise 3 in a BRC. And I had to explain to other coaches as I was out watching one of our other schools do it. I'm like, you can't load it like a 2-wheel class. You don't load all the bikes and then say go. It just, no, that's not safe. It's not anything. These students will go bananas on you.
Right.
So you, in my case, walk them the first 3 cones if you need to. Go to the next person, walk the next 3 cones, and get them to creep that motorcycle out. Much like you were saying, but I'm not brave enough to stand in front of anybody.
Yeah. No, we actually have them either go to neutral if it's something with a neutral, or on Can-Ams and Rikers, they got to have that hand up in the air before we push them back. But the reason they have it push forward, push back is because they use this oval. It's a little bit different than loading up cones the way we do in MSF, and we use hand signals to stop them. I am glad we moved to this 1-day blended curriculum in Massachusetts because we no longer have to teach drifting, which was an exercise we had before. Yes, we taught drifting in a basic class.
I like it. And if you had Moses come out to teach you how to do it, it's got to be awesome.
Oh, I know, right?
It is. It was awesome when we did it. Yes, it was.
Yeah. I was telling them too, and flying the car and steering reversion was my favorite exercise, especially to demo. You get up to the balance point with the sidecar and show counter steering to the left, counter steering to the right, counter steering to the left, and ease it back down.
Keep working on it, because Dave says that can be done with a Can-Am. I can't do it, but he swears up and down it can be done.
There's the pictures in the workbook. I got it here somewhere.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, the chief, the Virginia chief, was it Josh, did it when it first came out. I myself have been, just for personal experience, it is possible to carry that wheel up in the air, an inside wheel up in the air, for at least 2 seconds.
Yeah, sure, but you're 10
to 15 inches off the ground. Legit, you can feel that you are flying the kit. Now, the stability control kicks in real quick. Mm-hmm. So you have to find the sweet spot where it doesn't know, where the Riker doesn't know, oh, am I up or am I down? And the speed plays into consideration. If you're going too fast, it doesn't matter. It brings you right down right away. But if you're going...
I only see that... Yeah, that's not anywhere close to the balance point. That's just lifting a wheel.
Yeah.
Supposedly there's a video somewhere of somebody riding it at the balance point across the range. Supposedly.
Yes.
Moses has not delivered on his promise to me for that just yet. But he told me that that's the case. I'm like, all right, I want to see it, because I tried. I can't do it.
Yeah, I tried a little bit too.
So I like very much that you guys have hands off the controls while, you do this thing. In my class, as we're telling people that are totally overwhelmed, that I just told them, guess what? If you crash it, you could be the proud owner of a $36,000 motorcycle. And they're scared. I'm like, okay, so you're not getting out of class, or you're not getting kicked out because you make a mistake. You're going to get asked to find another opportunity if you are unsafe, if you literally can't follow directions. And what I want you to do, if you're afraid, you don't know what to do, you brain farted, you don't know, whatever you want to call it, your job is to put your hands in your lap and be still. I will figure out that you don't know what the hell's going on, and I will come to you, and there is no shame in that. But if you go off to wherever you think you were supposed to be and then tell me, well, I thought you said, and nobody else is there, we're going to have a problem. So I like the hands off the controls. I had students that want to, talk to me and point at something about this one time in the range, and they flip around and like, whoa, just hands on the lap, and you can say as many words as you want to. And it works out really, really good to not die for the coach. Any other cool things that you guys have found out that works for three-wheel out there?
To me, it's really emphasize that they're not in a car. A lot of people that I've experienced come to take these classes, particularly with the Riker, start having this concept of familiarization that they're sitting down, they're not falling over, and they think they're comfortable. And I have many people telling me, I'm calling them onto the oval, as Josh explained with the step. We have an oval course, and they're literally not coming. And then they tell me, like, oh, I thought it was in my car. I was hitting the brake thing. I was hitting the gas. So this is not a one-time occurrence. I've had multiple students share this thoughts with me and tried to really say, it's like, no, you are sitting stradded. There is nothing protecting you around. You have to understand, you can't have that level of comfortability on this machine. You need to understand the risk you're assuming by riding this machine. And most students eventually, after the third exercise, they're like, yeah, this is nothing like sitting down, relaxed in your car. So I tried to bring that in right away when students come in, try to break the habits of what they might feel is right because of how the machine might perceive them to be compared to what they're used to. So that to me has helped a lot. So students realize that they need to pay more attention. But going back to Josh's point, there's also students that come in for the experience. They don't come in for licensing. They thought it was a fun thing to do. So in their mind, the safety concept isn't really there anymore because they don't perceive it as going out to the street. They perceive it, they went to an amusement park and they're going on a ride.
Now
Right,
that's
they're like,
what the
yeah.
rental key is for.
Yeah, that's what the rental key is going to be great.
Yes.
Hermes,
so,
you weren't here yet for that, but
Yeah. I was going to ask you later to fill me in so you didn't have to repeat all the stuff. Yeah, that would be great to know. But that's something I've seen a lot this year with the Rikers is there's a misconstrued safety aspect of what people expect when they come in.
Do you guys use the e-course at all for the three-wheel classes?
we use the
Oh,
evergreen one, but we don't use any
Yes.
MSF three-wheel curriculum.
Right, but it's online and takes the place of some sort of inside classroom?
That's correct. We still have to do the stability lesson in person. So there's a flip chart. There's one section that we are required to do in person, and that's on stability, where we actually talk about the steering reversion. We talk about drifting, but we don't do it. But we do talk about stability in body position and some of the stuff that could be trickier, I guess, to try to learn on an e-course.
Okay. Is that with that in person, do you guys have a physical classroom, or is it just something you cover like on the side?
On the side, we actually have they're like those covered
Easy
pop-ups.
ups.
Yeah, easy ups with chairs.
And hopefully no rain and not too cold.
Yeah, so we talk about tip over lines and in traction. And I usually use a chair like as a demo to talk about, that has 4 points of contact. So you have 4 potential tip over lines. And we talk about the different types of three-wheel rigs. In Massachusetts, obviously we cover some sidecar stuff, even though we don't, if they're there with a Can-Am, they're not using a sidecar. However, in Massachusetts, you're getting a three-wheel license. It's a J-restricted license on successful completion. So according to the state, you can ride all 3. So you have to know about all 3.
I'm curious, you were talking about the chairs outside. What do you use for chairs? Because what I'm finding with the three-wheel classes is the students, there are a larger number of larger students who seem to take the three-wheel class. And like in classroom, because we have a classroom component, metal chairs do not work. Usually at least one metal chair out of every class gets broke.
We're using those like plastic, the bigger ones, the heavier duty ones, but those plastic lawn chairs, but they're not like the cheap ocean Well, actually, you guys don't have
Yeah,
Ocean
go to
State
a
drop.
hospital.
They're not the Harbor Freight version of the chairs. You know, they're a little bit heavier.
Yeah, no, they're high rated. I weigh 320 pounds, and there's no problem with the chairs that we use, so we don't have that issue. They're just much sturdier, and they're wider chairs too. That
You mentioned
all the students.
You mentioned Harbor Freight, though. I heard they're having some kind of a sale. I hear.
What is it on their jack stands?
They're always having a sale.
Yes, Harbor Freight is always on sale. Everything is on sale at Harbor Freight. This is the way it is.
Did I just break the computer?
No, we just probably all realize, hey, it's 10:30 at night.
Now we're all letting it sink in.
I wanted to say hi to Maggie. Hi, Maggie.
Is Maggie
Hold on.
finally on with that drink? Jesus,
Yeah.
that took long enough.
There's Maggie D.
Yeah, did you finally get your drink, Robin?
Yes, I got my drink. Actually, I drank it, and that's why I've been shutting up, because I know what happens if I start drinking. Eventually, I start Facebooking people, friggin' Sarah and Jason and Haas.
Uh-huh. Very humble individual, that Robin Dean.
So I think Hermes is teaching three-wheel this weekend.
Yes. It's going to be pretty.
Are you here or are you in Connecticut?
No, Connecticut. It's a rep. No,
Nice.
Connecticut. It's just Massachusetts. I believe. What I know is these are the last two classes that we will be doing for the year. With
Nice.
the rep.
Are you letting three-wheel go longer than two-wheel in Massachusetts?
No.
Not at least not with us. No. That much I know, because I'm scheduled 2 wheels after, and I think the machines are all being returned shortly after this class. Don't quote me on that one, but I believe
Yeah.
that's the case.
No, I believe so as well.
Yes, yeah. Can't have their stuff back on time.
I went for November 8th for a wrap date. I figure if it snows, it'll probably melt by like 9 o'clock, so we'll just start in the classroom.
Well, actually, Josh was my RCP trainer. We did my final class in the snow on Christmas Eve 2 years
Yeah,
ago.
student teaching Christmas Eve because we got snowed out when we were originally supposed to have it. So Rick likes to do his RCPs when his range isn't gonna, lose classes. So we usually end up really like November, December trying to do an RCP, and then student teaching usually ends up in the snow.
Well, with no hand levers on the Rikers, Jason, they can all wear mittens.
I wear mittens. I have trigger mitts from Duluth Trading Company. They're the best gift I ever got from my mother-in-law. Absolutely fantastic. Actually, being that they're trigger mitts, I ride my motorcycles with them regularly.
Actually, now that you bring that up, we're talking about the 3-wheel and what works and what doesn't work. And short version is, when somebody tells me they have a 2-wheel license, I really watch their hand operation, because Josh unfortunately has had this happen to him. I've seen this happen with many 2-wheel students. Their first tendency is to go for a front brake that doesn't exist.
Yep.
And I have to stop them safely, of course, doing all the right coaching things, and explain to them, like, you really have to understand, you have to use the pedal. You have to put your foot down.
How many
After the
times
first
have
couple- What's that?
How many times have you ridden a demo and reached for the front brake?
Actually, every so often, particularly if I'm switching from 2 to 3-wheel, I go for the front and I'm like, and more on the rear, and that's the only one there. All right. And then, every so often it does. I'm not going to say it. It happens. But I try to make sure the student doesn't see it, and make sure if somebody brings it up, make it a learning opportunity, explain to why it happened, or ask somebody why it did happen.
It's funny, when I became step certified, student teaching, we actually had some of the rider coaches, one of the rider coaches' wife, she was an avid motorcyclist ride, and she actually ended up off the range. Actually, at least she didn't get too far, but she ended up in the grass, and it was because she went for the imaginary front brake in the brake chute and kind of rolled on the throttle. And this is, 8, 9, I think that was exercise 9. So you've been riding it a whole day and just in that moment, muscle memory kicked in.
Well, I'm looking at my schedule, Sarah, and I see that all of my classes are filled. But if you want to come to Sturtevant and hang out, we have 100% chance of a no-show from what I can tell based on previous history. And last week class, it was supposed to be full. One single student showed up.
What?
Sounds like Brockton, where we live, Hermes.
Oh yes, it does, dude. It's like, and they're not here, or they're looking for the range. They show up 30 minutes later.
Are you guys stacking morning class and an afternoon class where
This is ones. It's the wild card.
You're talking about running doubles, like having two separate classes that are yin yang.
Group A, Group B, yeah.
I'm coaching doubles on the range this upcoming weekend, by the way. We'll see how that goes.
8-to-1 doubles?
Yeah.
Holy shit.
Are you going to get lucky and have it be really hot too?
Say what?
Are you going to be lucky and have it be really hot on top of it?
It was this past weekend. It was 110 degrees on Saturday. It was 98 the next day. So maybe, Rita. I don't know. We'll see. But yeah, 8-to-1 doubles on the weekend. That's what I'm doing.
You sound as crazy as I am.
Love you to come back and do that in Madison. That'll be fantastic.
No. I'm doing this with another coach.
Well, that's not 8-to-1 then. That's like Illinois standards.
But were you impressed at first? Were you impressed at first?
I was impressed.
That's why I kind of. There was alcohol involved.
I'm like, that sounds like something stupid that I would do. 8-to-1 back to back.
12-to-1. We don't allow that. Oh well, there's another coach there, but
I figured out
they're doing much.
Josh, I just wanted him to hang on that for a second and see how it went. But no, I got another coach there, and C1, C2 noise for 2 classes back to back. What I'm really saying is we're doing 8-to-2 back to back.
That's not work. That's a freaking vacation.
But you were impressed for a second, and I really wanted to ride that out. So,
but it was just you. I'm like, oh man, he's working. Fantastic.
Let's just thank you. I want to thank you for that.
I bet on top of it, Maggie's going to come get cones for you.
No.
No?
Is she the C2 though, or C1?
No, she's not Texas certified. She's thinking about it. It looks like it's gotten easier. A lot of stuff has gotten easier.
Well, they let you do it. Of course it got easier. Maggie's fantastic. She'll be fine.
Hi, Wall. How are you today?
I was going to say, we don't do 8-on-1 currently here in Mass, but we do 6-on-1, and I'm the guy that picks that a lot. For some, I don't pick it. I get chosen for it when I get a schedule. But no range aids either, of course.
That's the rough part. So I had my wife, she's a coach too, range aiding for me. So she was, I would turn around and things were just done. And even 6-to-1, which I know I can handle juggling the cones and the 6-to-1, no problem. Mm-hmm. Even that was a lot. There's no breaks, there's no breaks. You will drink water while you're kicking cones, and then you will coach, and then eventually we all die.
That's really good with the student-led like debriefs where you just give them, hey guys, here's something to talk about. I'm going to be within earshot no matter where I am on the range setting up cones. I know what's going on.
Yeah, who here thinks that Billy?
Capstone,
Who here thinks that Billy here is just heinously unattractive, just physically an incredibly ugly person? Talk about Billy for a while. I'll be back. I hate all of you so much, and you suck at all this. But great job.
All we do it the Robin way here, Robin. We have all the every single dot on a range is marked with the exercise number.
For real?
Mm-hmm. So you could actually technically hand cones to somebody and go, okay, drop that on all the 6s.
Here you go, kid. Knock yourself out. Let's see what happens. I got Sarah. I got
blue dots for tall cones and red dots for small cones.
And I are gambling on this one. Sarah and I rolled the dice. You just put the cones where you think it's going to happen. We'll invent an exercise. During lunch, you guys can practice. We'll be back. We'll see what happens.
It made it easy, though, when I do RCPs because it's one less thing. Like, for some reason, candidates will freak out about staring at the cones for 20 minutes trying to figure out the cards, looking for cones. So now with them all numbered, there's no excuse. It's like, okay, guys, set up the range. It's real easy.
Yeah. Here's your
That might
map.
be overly easy.
That's too easy. You got to make them
Yeah.
work for it.
At least make them market themselves.
There's so much other stuff to really get them to focus on that
I figure
Well,
if they're if they can't do that, I don't need them. That's the first bar. Are you smart enough to figure this out? Josh, do you happen to make any of your candidates go for a ride with you? Because that has been my litmus test of, do I want to work with these people?
I should have done the same thing to
That's-
you, man.
That's a great idea. I do make them, they do a BRC as a student
There you go.
beforehand. And I ended up counseling somebody out on exercise 9.
Oh my.
See, now, Jason didn't make me go on a ride with him. He made me go to a track.
That's not necessarily true.
That is what you did. It's exactly what you did. We wrote a 1,500-word article about it in your favor, mind you. And you were like, hey, no, I don't. Let's see if you can actually ride a motorcycle.
There was that. Hey, remember, we gave you a motorcycle to ride at Road America.
You gave me a motorcycle to ride after I showed you I could ride my own. And then I
That
was
scared
honored.
the hell out of me. You rode that pile of crap around Road America, so I
The
gave
Bandit?
you a bike.
What are you talking about? The Bandit's a chunk of whoop ass.
No, that whatever other thing.
Oh, the 636?
No, that was mine.
That thing's blown up how many times?
Only once.
Who's riding a pile of crap?
No, I put a new engine in. It's okay.
Super. You're talking about the Beamer?
No, you had that Hawk thing that you made.
Oh, the Hawk
around Road
GT. Yeah,
America.
that was a
Scared the
nightmare.
crap
Oh,
out of me.
those are like
Lateral swing arm flex.
I was
Right?
gonna say those are
I
like
got
the
a knee
king of
down. I
Loudon.
don't. I got a knee down. I don't. Like, it was terrifying. And Jason saw me do some freaking Russian gymnastics to save my own ass.
My biggest eye opener was my first track day. So it was at Loudon, New Hampshire, which is just a nasty track. I mean,
Isn't that a
it's
NASCAR track?
potholes and yeah. Well, they have a road course too.
Okay.
That's actually they got a racing series there as well. But I showed up to my first track day and I had this like Gixxer 1000 with like perfect plastics, everything's perfect on it. Because I didn't know, I was just naive, and I show up with like this beautiful bike and I look and everybody's got like EX 500s with like zip ties holding it together and these beat up, Ninja 250s. And they were kicking my ass out there, and I was on my 1000. They were passing me like I was standing still.
My
Well-
first experience was on my Hayabusa. It's a humbling experience.
Yeah, the what do they call it? A screamer parker. It screams down the straightaway and parks in the corners.
That's me. Yep.
Well,
So we have 3 and how many hours of Don's stuff to record? I hope the tip that I have for Don is whenever I appear on the screen, just cut it right there. It's over. There's nothing good after I have arrived.
divide it. Divide. This is 2 episodes. This is 2 episodes. I mean, so he's got to cut it at Jason, and then there's the Rita effect. Where is Rita? There she is in the giant green R.
I like the green. It's very Kermit the Frog.
It's not easy being green.
It's not easy being the co-host because Rita's like, man, Don owes me one now.
I mean, y'all ain't waiting for me. I got nothing to do with this. I'm the lesser level social jagoff. I'm just here
Your
to.
thumb was over your microphone, Rita, so we didn't hear a word you said. Yes.
I don't even know where my microphone is on this. You have way too high of belief in me. I said I keep thinking, okay, people, it's bedtime.
Okay, you're right. We're done. I mean, I could be done.
Yeah, sounds good. No, it was a really good talk,
yeah.
though, Jason. I'm so glad you were here, and
Fun talk.
your insight was huge.
Sarah's just like
Enlightening.
Sarah's been kicking
I'm
back the whole time. Like,
exhausted. I've been up since 4:30, and
Hey,
I worked out
that's
for
when I got up, and that's when I'm getting
Yeah,
up
but
tomorrow.
wait, are you talking Central Time though?
Yeah.
Or Eastern Time?
Central.
Yeah,
Like,
so
I
we're on
was
the East Coast.
I
It's
was up at
almost
4.
11 p.m. here.
why
Yeah,
were you
I
up since
I got
4:30?
shot
Eastern time.
too. I got
Oh,
shots in
wait,
both
wait.
arms. So
Is that
I'm
why
like,
you got up? Is that why you got up at 4:30 though?
no, I go work out at the gym for a couple
Oh, nice.
hours.
Okay.
So 2 to 3 hours.
Got up
depends how
early,
much
kick
time I
some
have.
ass.
I open up at
actually
work,
went
so
to
I got to get
work.
up at 4:30. People depending on me to get up at 4:30.
Not that I don't love y'all. I mean, this is great conversation. It's wonderful. Norman, it's nice to have you and to have more three wheel people to add to the conversation. It's great.
Yeah, that's why I stuck around, because there's all kinds of three-wheel stuff that I haven't learned yet.
Oh, you
Super
didn't
interesting.
Jason before I go. So you know who that is a picture of, right?
What in the hell is that?
Hey, Wendell.
Was it good for you?
That sounds about right.
Oh.
No, and there are
Jason-
so few coaches who have much three wheel experience that it's nice to have several of us who have experience with it.
Yeah, thank you for jumping in, Hermes, too. I'm glad you saw my text.
Yeah,
Rita, thank you
I
for
appreciate
training
you
me.
hitting Yeah, no.
That's
no,
who I have
thanks,
to
Josh, for letting
blame.
me know.
Oh
Robin,
God.
you learned despite me.
Yes, spite.
No,
Sorry, that's jazz
despite.
hands.
Yeah,
Despite, yeah.
actually,
too.
that was
You learned just despite me.
that was something that I was given right near the end of my IP, was that just remember your students will learn despite your best efforts.
Yep.
And there's a lot of truth to that, in that if you're not really clear about what your students' learning style is, then that's what's going to happen.
Well then, it's
That
only
is
fitting
90% of my classes right there.
before I leave, I'll just say I hate all of your faces. I hate all of you, and I hate all of you.
That's the alcohol talking. So,
We love you too, Robin.
Good night, everybody.
night, everybody.
Good night, everybody. Thanks for having me. Take care.
Absolutely, thanks.
1, 2.